Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video we are going to learn how to cut a short without a dart. I'm sorry that I couldn't get the finished look on my body, but trust me, the fit was so perfect. So we are going to move over to our cutting table, and for this tutorial you will need about 1.5 yards of fabric, that is by 60. The length will be by 60. So the measurement that you're going to need is your waist measurement, your hip measurement, your waist to hip measurement, and your full length of your shorts and your crotch depth. But if you don't necessarily need to measure the crotch depth. You can derive the crotch depth by doing some necessary calculations. So in order to fold out your fabric, you are going to divide your hip by 4 and then add an extra 5 inches. Let's say your hip is 40, you divide it by 4, that is 10, plus extra 5 inches, that is 15. That means you fold out your fabric by 15. So I'll go ahead and cut out this white part on this fabric because I don't need it for I don't want it to appear on this short. So I'll go ahead and cut it out. And after that, the first measurement that I'm going to take is my waist to my hip and my crotch. So I'll subtract my band. Remember that I added a band to this short, so I'll subtract 2 inches from my band, but I'll not subtract exactly 2 inches. I'll subtract 1.5 inch because I will use half an inch to join my band to the short. So after doing that, I'll measure from my waist to my hip. So from my waist to my hip is 9 inches. And in order to get your crotch depth, just add 1 inch to your waist. If your waist to hip is 10 inches, just add 1 inch to it, or 1.5 inch, in order to get a perfect crotch. So from my waist to my hip is 9 inches, and I added 1.5 inch to the 9 inches, and that is 10.5, and that will be my crotch depth. That's how I normally do my perfect crotch depth. So from there I will come down by 3 inches, that is 10.5, and from there I'll come down by 3 inches, that is 13.5. That is why I mark this 13.5. The essence of marking this 13.5 is that this is where I will take my lapse measurement. So I will take my lapse measurement 3 inches below my crotch depth, and from there I mark the length of my short, and I added 2 inches allowance for folding the short. So the next thing that I will do now is to extend these lines so that I can take my measurements on them. So I'll mark my hip line, my crotch line, my lapse line. I'll mark the full length and also the allowance. So I'm done doing that, and the first measurement that I will take on this is my hip measurement. My hip is 36 inches. So in order to mark my hip, I will start from the outside, the place that it is unfolded, that I folded. So you start from this folded part when taking your measurement. So all your measurements will start from this folded part. So my hip divided by 4 is 9, and I'll add an extra 1 inch to it, and that is 10 inches, and I'll mark 10. My hip is 36 divided by 4, that is 9, and I'll mark 9 inches. Remember, if you are marking a short, if you are cutting a trouser or a short, your hip and your waist measurements are the only measurements you divide by 4. The rest is by 2. So from that point where I measured my hip measurements, I'll extend the line the line to the waist line. Like from the point where I measured 10, I'll extend that line to meet my waistline, and from that line I'll take my waist measurement. That means I'll take my waist measurement backwards. If you can see, my waist measurement is 27, and plus 1 inch I'll mark. Let's assume that it is 27 divided by 4. Let's just assume that it is 7 inches. I will add extra 1 inch to it, and that is 8 inches. So I'll connect my waistline to my hip line. So if you notice so well, I took my waistline from that line at the middle, my midline. That line is just the midline. I took my waist measurements backwards. So first of all, you achieve your hip measurements. Then from that point, you take your waist measurement. So the next thing that I will do is to measure my curve, my crotch curve. So in order to get your crotch curve, you will divide the point where you measured at your hip, that is 10, just divide it by 4. Your hip divided by 4, so whatever you got, you divide it by 4 again. So after dividing it by 4, I got 2. Remember that my hip divided by 4 is 9. My hip is 36 inches. Divided by 4, that is 9. So I went ahead and divided that 9 by 4 again, and it gave me 2 point something. It wasn't up to 2.5. So from that point, I would connect my crotch curve. So do not allow your crotch to be too curvy. Just make it, let me say, a bit curved like mine, and that's it. So the remaining measurements are now the lapse measurement or the thigh measurement. So in order to achieve the thigh measurement, you will measure from your crotch curve, your crotch measurement to your hip. So from my crotch to my hip is 12 inches. So the midpoint of that 12 inches is 6 inches, and I will make a dotted line downwards. So this dotted line is just to indicate the midpoint from my crotch measurement to my hip measurement, and every other measurement will fall on this midline. So the first measurement I will take is my lapse measurement. My lapse measurement or my thigh measurement is 23. 23 divided by 2 is 11.5. So if we divide 23 by 2, that is 11.5. So that 11.5, you will divide it by 2 again. If you divide the 11.5 by 2, you'll be getting around 5.75. So that means that the 5.75 will be on the midline. You can see I've divided the 11 by 2 again. So the 5.75 will fall on the midline, and then I will mark the other ends. I will mark where the measurement started, and I will mark the 11.5. But remember that I said that you add your allowance before cutting. So 23 inches, that is my thigh measurement, plus 1 inch seam allowance is 24 inches. And if you divide it by 2, that is 12. And if you divide the 12 by 2 again, that is 6. So this 6 will be on the midpoint, and the other ends, you will mark the other ends. Remember, my lapse measurement is 23 plus 1 inch seam allowance, that is 24, divided by 2, that is 12. So the 12 divided by 2 is 6. That was why I marked the 6 at the midline. Then I marked my 1 inch and where the 12 inches ended. So the short that I'm making is a free short. So the knee measurement is 20. The knee measurement is 19, but I added 1 inch for seam allowance, that is 20. And when you divide it by 2, that is 10. And if you divide the 10 again, you will have 5. So the 5 will fall on the midline, and then you will mark where the tape started and where the 10 inches is. So you connect this line to your thigh measurements. Just divide your thigh plus 1 inch for seam allowance divided by 2. I told you guys that the thigh measurement is the only measurement that you divide by 2. The thigh, the knee, and the ankle parts, but the hip and the waist is divided by 2. So at the ending part, I'll fold the edge of this trouser. So I will not mark it straight to the allowance. I will make it like a bit slanted. It will come out a bit, so that when I fold, I will have enough fabric. But when I make it straight, when I am folding, you will notice that you will fall short of you will have less fabric. I don't know if you have experienced this while folding the edge of a curvy skirt or a curvy blouse. So that was why I added, like, I made the allowance slanty so that when I fold it in, I will have excess. So I'll go ahead and cut this thing out. If you have any measurements, please do feel free to drop it in my comment section. I will answer you guys. I know that cutting a short can be complicated, but I'm here to help you. So this is the back panel. I want to cut the back panel now. I folded my fabric into two, and after folding, make sure that you have at least 3 inches allowance on both sides of the front panel. Like, after placing the front panel, make sure you have at least 3 inches on both sides. So the first thing that I will do is to come in by 2 inches at the middle. The place where the crotch is located is the middle of the trouser, so you come in by 2 inches. The reason why I said I should come in by 2 inches is because women, our back part is a bit deep. It is deep a bit. Then our hip, our bum now pop out. I don't know if you get what I'm trying to say. So you come in by 2 inches and transfer the 2 inches to the side. If you notice, at the midpoint, I came in by 2 inches and I transferred that 2 inches to the hip side. This is in order for you to get a perfect fit trouser. So at the point where I came in by 2 inches at the back, I will go up by 1 inch. Some people will tell you to go up by 3 inches or 2, but no, I will advise you to go up by 1 if you have a small butt. But if you have a big butt, you can just go up by 2 inches in order to have a perfect fit. Don't use up to 3 inches, you might have excess. So from that point where I went up by 1 inch, I will make a slanted line to meet the point where I transferred my 2 inches. So I will add 2 inches to the hip measurement, and I'll add 1.5 around the laps measurement and 1.5 around the knee measurement. So I will connect. If you notice, the back part is a bit bigger than the front. You can see where I transferred my 2 inches to. I added 2 inches to the hip and 1.5 inch to the laps and to the knee. So the zipper of this trouser will be at the back, and I will show you guys how to add your zipper allowance to your shorts. So I'm done with this side. I'll move over to the crotch side. So at the crotch measurement, just add extra 2 inches from the crotch curve. Just add extra 2 inches and you extend your crotch line. So from that extension of the crotch line, you make your curve to connect the part where you subtracted 2 inches at the back. So this is the crotch depth. So the next thing that I will do is to add 1.5 inch for my seam allowance, for my zipper allowance. So the zipper allowance will stop around the hip measurement. So this is how you do it. Just draw it this way and make a curve, or just add your zipper allowance from the waist to the hip. You can make it 1 inch or 2 inches depending on how you want it to be. So this is how I add my zipper allowance to the back. So this is how I'll add my zipper allowance to the back, and that is it for the zipper allowance. So from the knee side, you make a slanted line. You will mark a slanted line that will connect the crotch curve for the back, and that is it for the back part of the trouser. Just subtract 2 inches at the middle back and transfer it to the hip. Then add your zipper allowance where you want it to be at the back, and add an extra 2 inches to your crotch curve and connect it to your knee, and extend the upper back by 1 inch or 2 inches depending on the size of your butt. So I'll go ahead and cut this out, and we have the front and the back now. So you can see the back is bigger than the front. Like I said, if you have any question, just feel free to ask me in the comment section. I won't hesitate to answer you. So right now I will use the remaining piece of fabric to cut out my pocket. I want this short to have a pocket, so I'll show you guys how I fix my pockets. So I've cut my pocket. Your pocket should be at least 8 inches long and 8 inches wide. So here is the front panel. So I'll make an opening for my pocket. I'll go in by 3 inches from the waistline, and I'll come down by 7 inches, subtracting the band. Remember that this short has a band, so I'll connect the points where I measure 3 by 7. I'll connect them to meet this way, and I'll go ahead and cut this out. So here is the part where I'll insert my pocket. Remember that I told you guys that this short will not have a dart, so it is time for me to join my short. Sorry, the first thing that I will do is to join my center back. I love joining my center back before attaching my pocket. So I've done joining it with just half an inch. So here is how I add my pocket. I will fold my fabric this way. You will just close the front part and place your short on it this way. Like you see, as you can see, I folded the pocket and I placed my short on it this way. The folded part will be on the inside, while the open part will be on the hip side. So after that, I will cut exactly the same shape I have on my pocket side on my short on my pocket. So like I'll just cut it out exactly the same way, and once you cut it, you will notice that the right side of your fabric will be showing. You know, this type of pockets, after sewing it, the right side of the fabric is what you will be seeing. You will not be seeing the wrong side of the fabric. So you will join it this way, and after joining, you will flip over and top stitch. So after top stitching, you fold it the way you folded it before. You fold it inside. Like I told you guys, the folded part will be on the inside. So after folding it, you will see that the right side of the pocket is down showing. So you hold it down with a stitch at the upper part, and you hold it down with a stitch at the side. So before you do that, please do remember to close the down part of your short. Close the down part of your short before you hold it down at the side. Close the down part of your pocket, sorry, before you hold it down at the side. So I've closed the down part of my pocket, and I will fold it in. And the next thing that I will do is to hold this pocket down to the side of my shorts. So after holding it down, I'll also go ahead to add a pin to it so that the pocket will relax, so that when I'm taking my measurements, it will not interfere. So you can go ahead now and trim off the excess. So here is the second pocket. Just fold it this way and place it under your shorts. As you can see, the wrong side of the pocket is showing. So go ahead and cut out the first layer of the pocket according to the shape of your pocket. So after that, place it front to front. Place the part that you have cut front to front with the shorts, and then sew. Then after sewing, you open it up and top stitch. Top stitching is very important. It helps the pocket to stay inside without popping out on the short or your trouser. The method I'm using now is the same method that you will use in sewing your trouser. So here is just the easy way I do my pocket. So after that, I'll close the down part of the pocket. So after doing that, you fold in your pocket the way you want it so that the parts where you joined will relax. Then you go ahead and hold it down with a stitch on the side. And then hold it along the waistline. Then after doing that, you can go ahead and trim out the excess. So I'm done with the pockets. I'll go ahead and pin it down so that when I am joining the front and the back, the pockets will not be shifting, because it normally disturbs when taking your full body measurement. So here is the back of the shorts. I will join the crotch also. So I will use a tight stitch, but when I reach the zipper allowance side, I will make my stitch to be loose, because I'll still open here up when attaching my zipper. So as you can see, I'm done. So I'll go ahead and open it up and show you guys. So when you open it up, just go ahead and iron the zipper allowance. I've ironed it and I've placed my front and my back together. The reason why I normally tell you people to iron your zipper allowance is that when you are attaching the zipper, the line will appear so that you know where to attach your zipper on. So I'm done placing the front and the back together, and I'll go ahead and take my hip measurements and my waist measurements. I'll just take my hip measurements and my waist measurements for now. So I'll sew from the waist to the hip. And I will sew straight down. I'll not take my thigh measurement from here. So from the down part of the other side, I will join. As you can see, I have already marked the hip measurement and the waist measurement. So I'm done now. The next thing that I will do is to cut out the excess allowance that I have. And after cutting out the excess allowance that I have, I'll go ahead and fold the hem. I'll go ahead and hem the short. So after hemming it, I will now join the inner parts. So when I'm joining the inner parts, I can now take my laps and my knee measurements. I don't normally take my knee measurements when I'm shaping the outside. I only take my knee measurements when I am done folding, and then I'll take my knee measurement from the inside. So I'm hemming the shorts. So I am done joining my short. I've joined the front and back, so I'll go ahead and rip the seam for my zipper allowance. So I'll remove the seam there, and after removing it, I can see a line that I made there with my iron. So here is where I will insert my zipper. So you can insert your zipper before attaching your band, but due to some reasons I had to attach my band before attaching my sleeve. So I'll go ahead and attach my band. If your fabric is very light, please do make sure to add a hard stay to your dress. Add a hard interface to your band so that the band will be very firm. So I'm done sewing from the inside. I'll go ahead and fold it in from the outside. So I'm done attaching my band and my zipper, and here is the finished look of the short. Trust me, the fit was so perfect. I couldn't get a picture, but there was no fault. Everything was just so make okay. Sure to subscribe to my channel, and up here I have my Instagram handle where you can drop your video requests. Thank you guys for supporting me. Thank you guys for watching me. I appreciate you guys so much. See you in my next video. Bye.